Here we are back together again, friends, for another episode of the Juicebox Podcast.
Hi there, I'm Leah. We have two boys, a 13-year-old and a 7-year-old, and our 13-year-old boy was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes in 2013.
If your loved one is newly diagnosed with type 1 diabetes and you're seeking a clear, practical perspective, check out the Bold Beginning series on the Juicebox Podcast. It's hosted by myself and Jenny Smith, an experienced diabetes educator with over 35 years of personal insight into type 1. Our series cuts through the medical jargon and delivers straightforward answers to your most pressing questions. You'll gain insight from real patients and caregivers and find practical advice to help you confidently navigate life with type 1. You can start your journey informed and empowered with the Juicebox Podcast. The Bold Beginning series and all of the collections in the Juicebox Podcast are available in your audio app and at juiceboxpodcast.com in the menu. Nothing you hear on the Juicebox Podcast should be considered advice, medical or otherwise. Always consult a physician before making any changes to your healthcare plan or becoming bold with insulin. The episode you're about to listen to is sponsored by Tandem Mobi, the impressively small insulin pump. Tandem Mobi features Tandem's newest algorithm, Control IQ Plus technology. It's designed for greater discretion, more freedom, and improved time and range. Learn more and get started today at tandemdiabetes.com/juicebox. US Med is sponsoring this episode of the Juicebox Podcast, and we've been getting our diabetes supplies from US Med for years. You can as well. usmed.com/juicebox or call 888-721-1514. Use the link or the number, get your free benefits check, and get started today with US Med.
Hi there, I'm Leah. My husband and I and our two kids live in Brandon, Manitoba, which is in the prairies of Canada. We have two boys, a 13-year-old and a 7-year-old, and our 13-year-old boy was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes in 2013.
Oh.
Nope, that is not right.
That's not right?
I know, 2023. Sorry.
You know, you took me by surprise because I actually thought that their child was diagnosed more recently. And then I thought, oh, maybe not. So
No, yeah. Wrong year.
Okay, that's okay. So tell me again, how old is the son?
Our oldest Cohen is 13.
Okay.
So he was 11 when he was diagnosed.
Okay. So just 2 years ago. Is there type 1 or other autoimmune in your family?
No, there's some type 1 far enough back that I don't know that it counts for anything. In my mom's family, she had a cousin. That cousin's son had it.
Okay.
My dad had type 2, which I know is not related, but there is autoimmune for sure, and particularly from my mom's side of the family. And I struggle with some of that. And Cohen had before he was diagnosed with type 1 also. So it's definitely right in my family. We all kind of struggle with some of the same things and some different things.
Well, what did Cohen have before his diagnosis? What else did he have going on?
As far as autoimmune, he had other diagnoses beyond that. He was followed by a allergist for about 3 years. He had viral induced asthma. It started about when he was 3, I think. And the allergist had said that often kids do tend to grow out of that type. And he did eventually grow out of that type. He also has some eczema and psoriasis. So he's also followed by dermatology, which has been that's been ongoing for Cohen.
What about you?
Well, I have a fibromyalgia diagnosis that's kind of been queried by other physicians, but it is what it is. So I deal with some chronic pain, but I also have some dermatitis type issues I was diagnosed with an condition at the age of 20 called posterior scleritis, at which time the ophthalmologist had told me that it's often associated with autoimmune disease. But other than what I've got, I haven't developed anything new as of late.
Okay. And then you said there's other stuff like on your mom's side of the family too. What else?
There's thyroid. My sister has thyroid. Both my mom and my sister have psoriatic arthritis. And my mom had a cousin with rheumatoid arthritis.
Okay. Well, guess what, Leah? I'm counting the cousin's daughter's type 1 as part of your family line because that's a fair amount of autoimmune tripped in there, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything on your husband's side?
No, not that we know of. Scott's pretty healthy. He was actually adopted at birth. So we, as we were preparing to get married, had looked into getting some of the medical documentation from his birth. And there was nothing noteworthy in there about anything autoimmune wise.
Yeah. How about your other kid, your younger one? Did they have anything?
So far, just the viral induced asthma. He's got that too.
Okay. Interesting. So they both have it. And you live pretty rurally?
Well, we're in a city. It's the second biggest city in Manitoba. Mm-hmm. Winnipeg, I want to say it has about 750,000, and Brandon, where we live, has about 45,000. Okay. So
a lot of people. I just meant like, because you called it the prairie, so I wasn't certain if that meant like.
Oh, yeah. No, there's lots of farmland around here, and, you know, we're kind of the armpit of Canada, so to speak.
Why are you the armpit of Canada? I don't understand.
Well, we're probably the least desired place to come and visit because I think we're just seen as, you know, a lot of snow, cold. We do have beautiful lakes and stuff like that. We really do. And we get hot summers. But comparatively to places like Toronto and Vancouver and all of BC, really, even Alberta and then the East Coast, we're just not the top.
I gotcha.
Tourism destinations.
So it's May. It's beginning of May right now. Is it still cold there?
It's kind of an odd time because you'll wake up and it'll be like, and I don't know, I only know the Celsius system, but it'll be like +3 or 4 here in the morning right now. But then today it's supposed to get up, I think, to around 19 degrees. So, and then by Sunday it's supposed to be 30, but we could still see snow at the same time.
Okay. All right. So for people like a 4 degrees Celsius is like 39 here. So for us, that's about 6 degrees above freezing, 5, 6, or 6, 7 degrees above freezing. So above freezing, but not a lot. I would call that cold. And it can go to 30 then?
Well, on Sunday, yeah, it's supposed to be 30 degrees Celsius.
Okay.
But we are not unknown to have like a big snowstorm in the middle of...
Or in the middle of summer.
Yeah, in the middle of May, it's not unusual if that happens.
Wow. So it can go from like, for people listening, like from like 36 degrees to like 86 degrees, which is such a huge swing. Oh my gosh. All right.
And then the other way, we can go like to -40 degrees Celsius, which is nasty.
And tell me why you don't leave.
I ask myself that every winter. Yeah. I guess because our family is here and I see myself as a snowbird once we retire. Okay. But
is your family that great? You need to be that near to them? I mean, it's really cold.
Well, yeah, it is. I know. And actually, like one of the biggest things of why we have stayed, because I grew up in Saskatchewan, which is the next province over, which is similar to Manitoba. And I had kind of always thought we'd go back there eventually. That's where my family is. And again, Cohen had some other diagnoses, cognitively and developmentally related as a preschooler. And I'm a social worker and I'd worked in the disability field well, at that time, probably for 4 or 5 years, I closed that season out actually after Cohen got diagnosed in 2011. But because of that, I kind of knew who the players were as far as supports in the community of where Cohen would meet and who those people were. And so it was a comfortable place for us to be initially. Mm-hmm. Then he moved over to the school system, and I don't know. Brandon is kind of a neat little place. It's like a big, small town, really, is what it is. But
all right, you like it there. That's fine. I hear you. I'm not going to argue with you. It just sounds very cold to me.
It is.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about your son's diagnosis. How did it come on, and what did you notice first?
April of 2023, where there was, he had shown a symptom, but neither Scott or I connected it back to diabetes. Like, it wasn't even on the radar, but we had taken him. We'd gotten a call from the school that Cohen was really complaining that his calves were sore. And so we picked him up and took him to walk in, and, they sent him for an x-ray, but thought it's likely just growing pains. That's normal. And so that's where it was left. The x-ray was normal, and we didn't think much of it. And then about 3 weeks later, it was a weekend, and Cohen was playing spring hockey at the time. It was a weekend, and they weren't playing weekends at the time. So we had a friend sleep over, and I took them to the movies and the Friday night, and Cohen, partway through the movie, asked me if he could go get a refill on his pop, which is really unusual for him. Mm-hmm. But I was like, I didn't think a lot of it. Yeah. I was like, sure, go for it. And then he told me when we left the theater, he felt just like a little bit funny, but he couldn't really verbalize what that meant. Yeah. Yes. And probably having more context of maybe some of his other cognitive stuff will help with this at some point. But the next day, he kind of bounced back that night. His friends slept over, went home. He had other friends come, wanted to go for a bike ride. So he went along, but we were just getting supper ready, and Scott noticed out the front window that Cohen was walking his bike home and looked winded. Mm-hmm. And so when he got in the house, he was not feeling great. He didn't feel like eating. He was presenting like he had the flu, mm-hmm. Very tired. And then on the Sunday, we woke him up and we were going to go to church. And he was like, Mom, I'm just so tired. And so I was like, that's okay. You sleep. We'll just leave you. So we did that. And then I did notice that day that he was going to the bathroom a lot. But again, I didn't know much about type 1 diabetes, so I wasn't
thinking about that.
Yeah. I Scott and I had already talked about, I don't think he's going to school tomorrow. So, but we thought we should.
He seemed sick to you at that point, just unwell, under the weather somehow. Diabetes comes with a lot of things to remember. So it's nice when someone takes something off of your plate. US Med has done that for us. When it's time for Ardent's supplies to be refreshed, we get an email. Rolls up and in your inbox says, "Hi Ardent, this is your friendly reorder email from US Med." You open up the email, it's a big button that says, "Click here to reorder," and you're done. Finally, somebody taking away a responsibility instead of adding one. US Med has done that for us. An email arrives, we click on a link, and the next thing you know, your products are at the front door. That simple. usmed.com/juicebox or call 888-721-1514. I never have to wonder if Ardent has enough supplies. I click on one link, I open up a box, I put the stuff in the drawer, and we're done. US Med carries everything from insulin pumps and diabetes testing supplies to the latest CGMs like the Libre 3 and the Dexcom G7. They accept Medicare nationwide, over 800 private insurers, and all you have to do to get started is call 888-721-1514 or go to my link, usmed.com/Juicebox. tandemmobi.com/juicebox. Using that number or my link helps to support the production of the Juicebox podcast. This episode is sponsored by Tandem Diabetes Care, and today I'm going to tell you about Tandem's newest pump and algorithm. The Tandem Mobi system with Control-IQ Plus technology features auto bolus, which can cover missed meal boluses and help prevent hyperglycemia. It has a dedicated sleep activity setting and is controlled from your personal iPhone. Tandem will help you to check your benefits today through my link, tandemdiabetes.com/juicebox. This is going to help you to get started with Tandem's smallest pump yet, that's powered by its best algorithm ever. Control-IQ Plus technology helps to keep blood sugars in range by predicting glucose levels 30 minutes ahead, and it adjusts insulin accordingly. You can wear the Tandem Mobi in a number of ways. Wear it on body with a patch-like adhesive sleeve that is sold separately, clip it discreetly to your clothing, or slip it into your pocket. Head now to my link, tandemdiabetes.com/juicebox to check out your benefits and get started today.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we did decide that we'd take him to walk in on the following day, the Monday. And that, because this was kind of just coming out of COVID and everything. So neither him or his younger brother had physicals in the last couple of years. So I said, I think we should get some blood work done though, and just insist for it.
Yeah.
So we did, and we got a call about 5:30 that day from the walk-in that saw Cohen, and he just said, you guys got to get to Emerge right away, and the pediatrician is there waiting for you. So, and he said something about his blood sugars being very high. And so, yeah, I kind of panicked, but we got ourselves ready to go to the hospital. And I contacted my sister. She works for two physicians in Saskatchewan, and one of them is a pediatrician. So, she had already kind of gotten her in the role of things of what we should be expecting with this. And initially, and thankfully, it was actually Cohen's pediatrician on call that night, which was really helpful for him and I.
Just for comfort.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brandon, they'll do some minor stuff with kids, but they don't like to touch much when it comes to anything complex. So I could tell that they were, I think actually Dr. Namani had already indicated that she'd been on the phone with the Winnipeg endocrinology department for peds, and they did some blood work, that kind of stuff. And the initial message was that we were going to have to go by ambulance that night, run home and get your stuff and come back here. So I was going to do that. And then in the meantime, of course, Gray was only about 4, which wouldn't have probably been a great scene having to be there with us all week. So my sister in Regina was working in the backgrounds to help find care for him. And they actually drove out here in the end. But Scott had called me while I was home grabbing stuff to pack and said they have decided that they think he needs to be airlifted. And so you need to get back here now.
Yeah. Can I take a moment to thank Canada for naming a place something that sounds like vagina? I think that's really fantastic. And by the way, I'm one Saskatchewan away from my bingo card being filled up on my my Canadian province bingo card for today. You're like Brandon, Saskatchewan, Regina, and I'm like, yeah, we're all over the place. This is awesome.
Yeah. I'm a Reginian, and there's lots of good names and not so good names. You just kind of take them in.
I don't know why we wouldn't just call this episode Reginian, because what are you called if you're from there? What does it say it again?
Oh, usually they say, oh, you're from vagina.
Yeah, we all are technically.
Yeah, fair enough.
Everyone. Sorry, your poor son is very sick. Did you take him back to the house when they said go grab your stuff? No, he stayed at the hospital.
He stayed
right.
My husband stayed, and Gray came back with me. We still thought we were taking him to Winnipeg at the time, but
gotcha. Passed the other kid off to your sister. You gathered some things, went back to meet them at the hospital.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay.
So Scott drove into Winnipeg. It's about 2 hours from here. And I went on the plane with Cohen. And
Did you say a plane?
yes, they ended up airlifting him because they felt...
Leah, it was a plane with little pontoons on it that lands in the water also?
I don't think it was that fancy.
Okay.
It didn't have seats.
Did you say not that fancy?
It had one seat beside the person you like for one parent or a loved one to sit beside, where your child is laying in a steel kind of...
I yearn for a simpler life where pontoons on a prop plane is considered fancy. I think that's what I want. I'm moving back to Regina. What do you think of that?
It's not so bad. We have some perks here in this area of the
Regina
prairies.
has a lot of perks, but it also has a lot of downside. So
True. Winnipeg probably has more, but anyways, we won't, waste our time on that. They're kind of always in rivalry of who has the least murders, who is the least per capita in the air.
You always want to strive for better.
Yeah.
So wait, so you flew on, how long were you on the plane?
I think it was about 40 minutes tops, 35 maybe.
Interesting.
I mean, you kind of get lost in time, but
sure.
Probably from flying out, and then because an ambulance actually took us to the airport where we took this medical airplane. So probably 40 minutes leaving, taking off and landing, and then
Where's your head then at that point, Leah? You just went from, I think my kid has flu-like symptoms to I'm on an airplane. What are you thinking about at that point?
Well, I was thinking he was going to die.
Oh, gosh.
And what I understood when the pediatrician talked to me at the hospital was I thought they were saying that he had diabetes type DKA. That's what my understanding
That's what you heard.
of.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was but I also wasn't pulling out my phone at that point, Googling. I was just worried, and it was scary. It was how quickly he got sick, and wondering were there other things that we missed in the past, and there probably was, but I think for us, and it's funny because the night before I was Googling on different things this could be, and I said to Scott that type 1 diabetes came up, but I really wasn't thinking that's what this was.
Is chaotic a fair statement?
Yeah.
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 Can you look back on it and tell me, is that someone's fault on the hospital side for not sharing it clearly, or were you just so bumfuzzled that you couldn't hear anything that was happening?
I think it was probably a little bit of both. I think in Brandon, they were panicked just because, again, when any child has anything too serious happening, they want to ship them off to Winnipeg right away.
So their hustle was, let's get them the hell out of here.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay.
You're not thinking that at the time. It was
Right.
I think I could have remained probably not very calm, but a little bit if they had just continued us on the path of the ambulance. But that's not what happened. So
were you panicking? Outwardly, would people look at you and go, this lady is in a panic?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I was.
Tell me, looking backwards, how would you have handled it differently if you got another I don't want you to get another shot at this, but if you got another shot at this, what would you do differently, do you think, for yourself?
I don't even know, because I guess when you don't have enough information, plus when, it's probably also, again, I acknowledge partly it would have been me and my level of understanding around what some of these terms were. And I was just jumbling them all up together. And
yeah. Is this common for you, Leah? Or did the situation knock you off kilter, or would you describe yourself as having trouble in situations like this generally? That makes sense?
I would, I do, but not ever like this before. Okay. Our healthcare system, as you know, runs a little bit differently. And the one thing I can say in all of this is that experiencing the world of pediatric care for type 1 diabetes in Canada, or at least in Manitoba, has been amazing, but it's very different navigating our system as an adult. And, you know, you wait in the hospital or in the emergency room for 20 hours. They miss lots of things because they're understaffed. And so it is a very broken system, but not for kids.
Okay.
So I think more my fear around like emergency rooms is some of my own past situations that have happened that I just hate having to be there.
Okay. So hospitals in general are not a good place for you.
Not really.
Okay. No, that makes sense. No, I'm just trying to understand like the whole pathway of it because, you know, most of your and my communication, when this was first happening, you would write me very long emails.
I'm sorry. I'm very
it's
sorry.
Okay, don't be sorry. You're not the only one that does it, so don't worry. Like, I understand what happens when you get into a panic, but your emails are so like long and involved. I will tell you something. I don't think I've probably never said this aloud on the podcast before. In the last couple of years, when I get emails like that, I actually feed them into a large language model and I say, what is this person asking me? Because often it becomes like a stream of consciousness. And sometimes people get lost in what they're saying, or they give you so much information. It's like a book report. And when I sit down to do my email, I'm already answering hundreds of emails. So like when I get to one, I'm like, I don't want to miss anything here. And sometimes I don't have the bandwidth for it either. Like, so, but can you tell me what prompted those emails? Like, were you scared or trying to figure things out? Like, what place were you in at that time?
Well, I would say like you have some comrades standing beside you who tease me about my writing and that I could work a little bit on condensing.
Wait, are you talking about your husband?
Actually, more so my work. Like I've had the same boss for close to 12 years and he jokes with me about it a lot, but I am actively working on it because I do go back and see sometimes. I'm like, okay, Leah. I wasn't at that time though, definitely.
Oh, no. Like, you weren't. Like I 1,000,000%, like if you made me bet as to whether or not you were mentally ill or not, I would have gone yes at first. And then I realized you weren't. Like the first one, I was like, uh-oh. But then I realized you were just overwhelmed and trying to figure a lot out. Was it all on you? Like, did it feel like I have to get this all figured out now?
No, like Scott, you know, from the beginning was a part of things. And we spent almost a week in Winnipeg. Mm-hmm. They spent about 2.5 days, I think, just getting Cohen's body like nourished with whatever nutrients it had lost and hydrated. And then, you know, they take you into the 3 days, we call it like diabetes school. Mm-hmm. And so we did that. And yeah, both of us from the beginning were really committed to being, yeah. And I think too, like another aspect of with Cohen that is challenging for us is, you know, he's had some hard things like thrown at him through life, through, you know, just since he was a little guy. If you saw him, you wouldn't think he's different, but you can kind of tell once you start talking, he struggles. He's not autistic, but he has like, and actually there's a psychologist through the diabetes clinic in Winnipeg that we had connected with when we had some behaviors like, I don't know, the first 6 months to a year with Cohen after diagnosis. And she's been there, like we always say, she's the silver lining of all of this because she's just this amazing human. And I think it's so cool that there are psychologists that specialize not just in like looking at brain and cognitive function, but paired with chronic illness. Okay. And so we just feel super blessed because from the moment she met Cohen, you know, she knew we weren't just dealing like with a kid that was having behaviors because he was 11 and it's a hard, you know, everybody could argue that when their child got diagnosed is the hardest time, but
she saw something about him that was a little deeper.
Yeah. She really wanted to understand, like, because he'd had a couple of psychologists psychological assessments done through the school. Prior to that, he had one done in Winnipeg. He was in grade 1, and then he had another one in, I think, at the end of grade 5.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, those really look at a lot of the same things, but of course, they're gathering that information to understand Cohen better from an academic perspective. Whereas like Dr. Jen came in and was also like, she could see and understand all that information. And, she worked with Scott and I for a while to start and had given us some tips, and we were trialing some things and we were getting a little bit of success, but it was so she finally, like, a lot of back and forth and not great strides. And so not the last session we had with her, but the one that kind of rounded up that stream of virtual meetings with her, counseling Scott and I, she had just said to us, Cohen had a lot more balls in the air to juggle than other kids his age prior to type 1.
Mm-hmm.
And then he got thrown type 1, and now he has more balls to juggle. And she's like, simply put, he's just not coping with it. And so she had at that time said, like, I feel like we really understand Cohen well from a cognitive and academic sense side of things. But she said I would really like to try and understand better how he interacts with his world, how his problem solving is, what his social skills look like, that kind of thing.
What is her estimation of his situation? Like you said, like he doesn't have autism, but he's struggling a lot. Like, are they giving you some sort of a diagnosis or an understanding of what might be happening to him?
Like when he was a preschooler, he was diagnosed with what they call global developmental delay, which is basically like there's 5 areas of core development that developmental pediatricians and such look at as far as where kids fall. And so he was, if you fall under the whatever is average on 3 or more, then that's, as a preschooler, the diagnosis you would get. And he was also diagnosed with something called dyspraxia of speech, which is, it's not muscle weakness thing. It's more so like how the brain sends the messages to the mouth to move the muscles at the proper times, if that makes sense. So like, I remember when he was like 4, we'd go to speech therapy, and she would do lots of like oral strengthening stuff. But, I think we started with the word pop, and, she would be like really pronunciating that p and, and p. And she would then say pop. And then she'd say, can you say it back to me, Cohen? And he'd be like, op. And then he'd keep looking at you like,
I did it.
Like, can you quit asking me?
Yeah.
I'm saying it.
How many times can I say pop before you people say it's okay?
Yeah. And he's grown in all of that. Like, but as they get older, they still kind of follow what's going on for them as far as the outcomes on, through school. And we delayed his school entry by a year. So he didn't start kinder until 6, because you get, I would say, much more frequent and thorough supports through therapy and those different kinds of specialists when they're preschoolers. So we just thought he could benefit from that extra year.
Did it end up helping?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it did, for sure. And of course, when they're little, like, and he was quiet and shy, I would say even up until grade 4 or 5, he had most of his struggles are with ELA, like his language arts and reading and writing and being able to pull information.
And are those still a struggle?
They are. So he, like this Dr. Jen, he does still have a speech therapist involved through the school. And she had done a speech assessment about 3 years ago. So Dr. Jen repeated that one, and there weren't a lot of changes. There were a few improvements, but he doesn't meet criteria for a language communication disorder, but he's borderline. So his two biggest things are that like he has slow processing speed. So, the best way to give an example of that is like if you're talking to him and you're on sentence 3, Cohen's still back on sentence 1, figuring out and processing what you're saying. From there, I think trying to draw language out, especially spontaneously for him, is really hard. Again, it would be because of the processing speed partially. And then just, I'm not exactly sure of all the science of it, but so now social skills are starting to be like impacted as he gets older, because it's easier when you're a little kid and you look like you're, but he's starting to like just make not intentionally, like, or even the way he communicates with his friends sometimes.
They're moving more quickly than he is.
Yeah.
Is that a thing? Have you seen this with anybody else in your extended family, or is this completely new for your family?
This is new for our family. I just have a sister and she has 4 girls and they're all bright. And Cohen had gone 2 weeks over term before he came out by C-section. And there was meconium in his amniotic fluid. Oh,
I see.
Which can sometimes, they say, I don't know if it's because they might swallow it or what that looks like, that can
impact
be a factor, but they don't know for sure.
Can I pivot for a second here and ask you a question? I hope you take this the right way. I really do.
Yeah.
Okay. You speak slowly. Like you have a very slow, specific speaking style, but you write prolifically. And so I want to know, like those long emails, do they take you long to write?
Sometimes.
Like I was trying to decide, do you write like that because it's a freer way of expression for you?
I do write better than I speak.
Mm-hmm.
I can speak, but I
want to be clear, Leah. There's nothing wrong with what you're saying. You're methodical when you speak, like you're slow, you think about your words, like that kind of stuff. Like there's no doubt that if you asked me to retell the same story you were telling, I could get it out in like 45 seconds. And
sorry.
No, don't apologize. No. I'm trying to figure the whole thing out. Hold on a second. No, don't. There's nothing to apologize for. There's nothing wrong with speaking slower or faster or anything like that. I'm just wondering if you're prolific when you write because it felt better for you as a better way of communicating, but that's not the case. You feel completely comfortable in both ways. Is that right?
I feel pretty comfortable speaking. I think I'm not always as effective in speaking as I am in writing.
Mm-hmm. That really feels like your genre then for communication.
Yeah.
I got you.
In a way, writing is kind of like therapeutic for me, to be honest.
How so?
I think it's a way for me to get my thoughts out and process them. I do a lot of that at night, and I suppose I would say it's my way of journaling.
Mm-hmm.
I often send them as emails, but I don't send them.
Oh, nice.
I'm learning that art. That's been my goal of 2025, and I'm doing very well at it.
It's awesome. That's really cool. So you're finding a way to like get through your thoughts by just writing them down. Do you email them to yourself?
Yeah. Or I just save them to my drafts because I'm not really a journaler that's not my jam. I wish I liked to read more than I do. I used to, but I don't.
You don't enjoy the reading anymore. Is it because you're busy or because you stopped enjoying it?
I think, it's because I'm busier, and I used to, pre-kids, like get through a book in 2 days, and now I pick one up and I'm like, what did I even read in this book the last time?
Mm-hmm. It's interesting.
So I hope to get back to it one day.
I lie to myself and say that I hope to read, but I really don't. I don't hope to do it at all. It's too slow for me, like as a way to like ingest things.
Yeah, for sure.
I am working more towards like books on tape and stuff like that because it seems like a quicker way for me to get it. But I like that you found a way. What do you end up journaling about? Personal that you don't want to share? Or is it about diabetes, or what do you use it for?
I think different things. Sometimes it is about advocating for Cohen in the school system. Could be anything related to just like getting my thoughts out if it was a difficult day at work or if it was a difficult day with the kids, just to kind of be able to process through it and put it to bed.
It's a great idea. Did you come up with that on your own? You heard about it somewhere? Where did you come up with doing that?
No, I kind of came up with it on my own. Yeah. I didn't call it journaling at the time. It was, I see a counselor, and it was her that was like, well, that's kind of is journaling, Leah. Like, you know, if you're not sending it, especially.
Call it what you want, but you're writing it down. Right. When did you begin seeing the counselor?
Just before Cohen got diagnosed, actually, like a couple of months before.
What got you there?
Difficult work stuff. I'd worked for a government department called the Department of Families, and I was a social worker in the Children's Disability Services program. And, you know, it just evolved as governments changed, and there was toxicity, and it was quite stressful. And I live with some chronic pain, which I managed fairly well, but I probably, if I'm going to let myself fall apart a little bit, it's going to be at home. Was just feeling like life was, and I was noticing that I was more anxious, and I didn't know why. There wasn't really anything about it that made sense. And so I just decided, and it's not the first time, you know, my doc has said, well, maybe you should see a counselor. But you know, when you're a social worker, you're like, well, I know what they're going to tell me. I already know what they're going to ask and what answers they're looking for. So you kind of fight against it, but totally been a blessing.
Yeah. Is that a interesting situation to be in? Like professionally, you can assess yourself and say, oh, I know what my problem is. But personally, that doesn't mean that you'll tackle it. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the best thing about her has been she just challenges my ways of thinking in very kind ways. Mm-hmm. That's where it's been most helpful for me, because sometimes we have these notions or beliefs that have followed us since we were really young. And so then sometimes our thoughts and or our behaviors and patterns and habits come from that. That's where it's been the most helpful, is just her pointing that out to me in a very kind and gentle way. But it's been a really good thing. And I've said to myself, even like when I think I don't need one anymore, I'm just going to
keep going.
I'm going to keep going for life. Yeah.
What would you tell people, right? Like, you know, if you're battling something from your past, it could creep back at you if you don't keep talking about it, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I think we think sometimes as adults, stuff that happened very, very long ago or whatever, we can bury it in the hatchet. But it's not even necessarily the events, but sometimes the way we respond to things is out of an adopted idea from when we were kids that's not accurate.
Also, if it's something to do with a parent or something like that, like, I mean, you have to forgive and let go, but if they don't, it can be hard to completely disconnect from the feeling. Like if you know what I mean? Like everybody needs to come together, and that can be difficult to get somebody to do. They might not even see it. They're not doing the work you're doing at therapy. Like, you know what I mean? Like all those things are problems.
Yeah.
Right. I hear what you're saying. Alcoholic?
Yeah.
No. Something else. You want to tell me or no? You don't have to.
No. I actually grew up in a Christian home.
A little too Christian? What are we saying, Leah?
Well, I would say middle of the road. Okay. I think partially what made my home a little bit more tight around what we were allowed to do as kids is my dad was also in policing.
Oh.
So he had an overprotectiveness of my sister and I.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, we weren't. Are
you afraid a lot? Like, does everything scare you?
No, I don't think so. I think it used to more than it does now.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting, isn't it? It's really interesting because it's, you just get a couple of things piled up on top of each other and they create a way of life, and you don't know how it's going to impact everybody. It's something. Yeah.
And probably I think that's, in a way too, with Cohen and me just having started, having a couple months in with her, it was just so timely because I honestly, that was kind of my tipping point of coping, and I knew something needed to change, and she really helped.
You're saying it's lucky you got started before the diagnosis.
Yeah. Like I feel really blessed about that because I was still working at my same job. And, when you're in the government, it's like, I'm going to have a pension, and I'd probably been there around 17 years. And there was a 0.7 position at a personal care home here. And really, that's kind of one of the things that her and I had determined, is that me working less would allow more time to look after myself, but also be more present, and available, especially with the new expectations and
the diabetes
responsibility. With the diabetes. So I never ever thought that I could do an interview again. I was like, my resume was last updated in like 2007. So, it was on a floppy disk, and
it's funny.
So, but I did it, and
good for you.
My dad is probably rolling over in his grave that I walked from my pension. But at the same time, I have too many years put in to, be miserable at a job.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Like, how do you find the podcast?
We love it. And I believe it was off of one of the Facebook groups that I saw it. And then we just tried listening to it on one of our drives somewhere, and very quickly got drawn in. And there's just so much good stuff in it. And I just hope that I can get through it all one day, because it, really actually for us, Scott, you say it in your own way. And I think a lot of your parents that you interview, from listening to you, also have their own way of saying it. But our endos and stuff are helpful on some level. But I think just candidly, hearing you have these conversations and talking about doing what makes sense instead of, I guess, getting these guidelines of what they want you to do, and not feeling good about it, but not feeling, I think you gave us the confidence to kind of step out more. And, with insulin, and we're still working on that. Cohen's MDI, which is not where our hope is that he lands forever. We really would love for him to get on a pump, and I believe he'll get there, but that's part of who Cohen is too. He, when we started the Dexcom, we had about 6 months of him ripping them off and just really struggling with that. We really felt though that was so imperative to not only just us being able to follow him somewhat, not somewhat, but with him being somewhat vulnerable, and not, and I would still say Cohen's understanding of diabetes is, it's what he understands. And that's where Dr. Jen really guides us on that, and at the time, just before he got diagnosed, we were at the dentist and they were like, okay, he needs braces. And we had put that off for over a year, just based on Dr. Jen's recommendation of he's got way too much going on.
Yeah. And
so we did that. He's 6 months in. I do have faith that he is going to get to the pump. He is going to go to a D camp this summer. We did a family one last year.
Okay.
So he's going to go to the one that's affiliated with the Manitoba kids.
Yeah.
And I think that will be amazing for him, because it will just be, a place where it's just all kids doing the same thing. But better than family camp at that age, because he gets to be there without his parents.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. How old is he? He's 13, right?
He is. He's 13, and they're going to say socially around 10. Yeah, Dr. Jen, she's like, honestly, Leah, he is one of the, like, she's like, he's my most favorite kid that I've ever assessed and spent time with. And she's like, but he's a really tricky kid because he doesn't really fall into one box. He has a little bit of the like stuff going on around like some rigidity and sensory stuff, but I don't know, these days they all say we have a bit of the autism in us. So who knows?
Everybody's got a little.
Yeah. But she's like, he's got so much empathy and can be interactive. Where he's going to struggle is socially, because he just coming up with spontaneous conversation in friend groups just takes him more time. But she's working with him on trying to give Cohen different options. And obviously our world is completely language based. So for kids like Cohen, it's not the best, but she's trying to, because I think it gets him very stressed out. And for example, like he had a medic bracelet and I got him like one that I thought was the most discreet, like just a silicone band. And he had stopped wearing it. I don't know when, but when we noticed, we talked to him about it and he freaked out. And he's like, you guys don't understand. Like, I just get asked too many questions. And so we kind of left it and I talked to Dr. Jen about it. And from there is like, he just needs the adult helpers in his life to give him some of the responses that he can give to that, and know that he also doesn't have to answer if he doesn't want to. And finding a way of saying that, part of the hard, because I would say, well, you got to read your audience, because he thinks it's always coming from a negative place.
Okay.
And reading his audience isn't easy for him.
Yeah. What's your assessment of him? Like, you said in the beginning, you're like, it's not autism. It's a little, maybe it is a little like, what do you think is going on? Like, do you have a feeling? Is there like something in your mom gut that's telling you is happening?
He has a, like out of the assessments that they do, the school when they come up with their IQ, like all of the testing put together. Mm-hmm. And I want to say an average IQ is 100 and Cohen's is about 83.
Okay.
So he's not super low. Like, he's low enough to have deficits in some of his executive functioning skills. Is doing a regular mainstream school programming, but he has adaptations to his plan. So things like, he has to do the same outcomes and show that he can do the work, but, he gets certain exceptions, like he, getting more time, having the teacher check in more frequently and breaking down the instructions for him, less questions, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, we're not too sure, Scott. And I try not to go too far ahead in the future because all of it put together, I'm not sure what that's going to look like. And is he capable of, I could totally see him being a kid that, could go to a trades college, potentially if he had some help with the school room work type parts of it. Mm-hmm. Is he a university kid? No, I already know that. And I think though there's some other things that are just where his friends would be, for example, money. Like, Cohen's had an allowance forever and he never asks for it, which is not typical for a 13-year-old.
Right.
It's not that he doesn't want it. He's just not been motivated or I guess fully understood the value of what it can do for him. He has like some really scattered skills, which is what makes him really kind of tricky. But Dr. Jen is going to reassess him next year, like before he goes to high school. because she's just feeling like even an update once he's more into puberty and just having up-to-date information going to high school just because it looks so different.
I see. So you think he'll have challenges along the way for sure. You're not certain how they're going to impact him as an adult. He does seem like maybe he could do a trade at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah. And your other child doesn't have any of these issues. Is that right? Except for the allergy thing, the viral asthma. Okay.
He's totally opposite.
Gotcha.
Cohen.
Well, it's a lot to deal with, Leah. It really is, it's a lot. Are you getting help like beyond like yourself? It sounds like your husband's very involved too, which is awesome. But do you have other support?
Well, I would definitely say Dr. Jen is our main support through, the diabetes clinic, and we'll have her till he's 18. And of course, like family, my family is in Regina. Mm-hmm. My husband has just his dad, and he's a couple of hours away. So we have limited natural supports.
Yeah.
We also have lots of people that love us and love our kids and show up at times where we really need it, if we need it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's terrific. I'm happy about that for you. Definitely necessary, Yeah. Yeah. And you find the online thing supportive as well?
Yes. Like your work, and absolutely. Yeah. We both do. And we both listen to a lot of your podcasts, and Cohen has heard you many times. And he had said to me a couple of weeks ago that he had Googled you so that he would for sure know what you looked like when he meets you.
Tell him I'm much more handsome in person. So that's going to be awesome for him. He'll be super excited. Yeah, no, that's awesome.
But no, the work you're doing is incredible. And
thank you.
I know that things are different from country to country, but really we're a big community at the end of the day. And what supports are available to us from province to province and state to state may be different. But I really believe that it's the people that have lived this disease that are the ones that know the most, for the most part. I'm not going to say all, because we have some pretty skilled and gifted physicians and specialists out there. But, most people don't know that. And I know that you probably don't live with this as much because, Arden's on a pump and she's older, but Cohen has as many highs as he does lows. And so we're probably at 4 times a week in the night for lows, usually, to give him what his body needs to get him out of there. And we're just
trying to keep up at this point, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is your knowledge of diabetes growing, or is there so much else going on that it's hard for you to put the effort into that completely?
No, I think both Scott's and mine continue to grow, and there are always times where you feel like you're winging it, and it's like, well, I still don't know how to dose for fast acting sugar stuff. So that is a hard one for me, and I just take a guess. And now that we're almost 2 years in, we don't get as stressed about it. If we're wrong, we're wrong. And we really hold on to your motto of it is so much easier
to stop a low or falling blood sugar than to beat up a high one. Yeah, it is.
Yes. Yeah. And some people don't understand that, especially in the pediatric world. They want to keep the number higher just because it makes them feel safer. But I also think our endos recommend that a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I think they do too. It makes it harder when you're talking to them, right? Because they feel like you're going against their good counsel sometimes. Have you found that? Have you run into that problem?
Yeah, we have it. Initially, we had a nurse educator with us, and there was some things that she would recommend to us that we just didn't feel right about. Yeah. And there's things one thing we have a regret over is that she thought it would be easy enough to just do the Dexcom training virtually, which for maybe most kids would have been. I don't think it was the right thing to do for Cohen.
Okay.
Not her fault, but looking back, those are some of the things. It's like, well, we'll know for next time and be a little bit more careful about. And I think that's too, like, we've learned so much about Cohen through all of this. And Dr. Jen has really talked to us about, like, it's really important how you use language. Because, quick example, I know we probably have to wrap up soon, but he, in the beginning, was like, because he comes home after school and neither of us are home. And we have just said, like, if you want to have a snack, just give us a call. And because we need to figure out the insulin. And he was like, I didn't realize this for a long time, but I think he was taking that as, I need to phone and ask permission for a snack, when it wasn't. It was more like he just doesn't know how to do the carb ratios.
Oh, yeah. You wanted to help him with the buttons, and he thought he was asking for permission just to eat.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And so when those moments kind of hit you, and I can see how he wasn't completely wrong in those situations. So we're more watchful. And having said that, he's like entering puberty, and no matter what we say, some days he's...
Yeah, despite all of his problems, he's still a boy. Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Yes. And nobody said that they get like super grouchy when they hit puberty.
Nobody told you that one?
No.
How many things have you learned that if you knew in hindsight, you might not have had kids? Because I have a pretty long list at this point in my life. I'll tell you what, it doesn't stop either. Like, they'll get older and you know what I mean? There's still more to do and more to help with. And being a parent is no joke. I'll tell you that much.
No. And you never really stop, nor do you ever really stop being a kid, right?
Yeah, no, it's interesting. That's a hell of an insight. You're right. It has been a little bit over an hour now, and I am getting text from Arden, who is telling me that we have to get moving because I have plans with her this afternoon. So let me just ask if there's anything left that you didn't say that you wanted to say. I don't want to get you out of here without you getting anything out that was important to you.
No, I just want to thank you for the opportunity to come on. And it truly is an honor. Like, I tell everybody you're the guru of type 1 diabetes podcasts. And I don't think I've listened to anything really captivating that, from east to west, really, as far as different topics you cover. And I think they speak a lot to us in different ways. And so we're grateful that we learned of the resource. And I do apologize about my extremely long texts or emails, rather. Sorry.
Emails, direct messages at one point. No. It's fine. Don't worry. Again, I'm being serious when I say this to you. Like, you're not the only one. Like, it happens. People get overwhelmed. Do you know what I mean? Like, they just do. Like, this happens. And then, at some point you say, I'm on an island here by myself. For you, an ice float. I don't know what to do. And you feel like, oh, this person might know. And it's a resource. And I don't know how you're supposed to stop yourself from asking. I'm glad that people ask. I'm a person too. And like, sometimes, when you start getting into the 1,000th word of something, I'm like, I don't know what's happening anymore.
No, I know. And, probably not every parent looks at it this way. And it's the last thing I'll say, Scott. But, for me, and I still sometimes feel like this, that like essentially type 1 diabetes is also, it's like organ failure. And that's what people that don't know about it or don't live with it don't understand.
Tell me how you mean.
I think how intensive the management of it is. One of the endos said to us early on in the journey to us that it's a micromanaged disease. And the hope is that one day the micromanagement is transferred from the parent to the child. That's felt very true for us just because of the age that Cohen got it. But we know we're not going to be in this place forever. And things have, we've grown in some areas. And it's just one of those non-linear things that
It's an incredibly slow process. It just really is. And I've seen it move more quickly for some people than for others. It's just not the point. Like, you have to have these experiences over and over and over again. And then eventually they just start to make sense. And before you know it, you look back one day and you wonder, like, I guess you don't recognize yourself one day. One day you're just like, wow, I've got this. I don't know how I got here. I don't know why it is that I feel comfortable all of a sudden, but my opinion is that it takes however long it takes to go through those experiences until, instead of being surprised by them, you see them coming. I think that's the difference. You know what I mean? Yeah,
I totally get that. That is such a good way of wording it.
Thank you. I have a podcast, so I'm good at talking about stuff like this.
Yeah.
You were really fantastic. I genuinely appreciate you doing this with me. I've been looking forward to talking to you actually for a while, because I thought like what a great opportunity to, you have a lot to say. And obviously there's something going on in your life that I think would be really valuable for you to share with others. And I appreciate you doing that today.
Well, thank you so much. I was pretty certain I was in your grave box or whatever. You're like, no, not them. Or maybe it's going to be really entertaining.
Yeah. No, Leah, you're too Canadian. Because once I was like, at some point I was like, hey, this is really long. I can't really answer this. I need to just synopsize it. You were understanding. Like, it wasn't like you were like, oh, leave me. Like, what do you mean? Like, you're like, no, I get what you're saying. Like, no, you're great. Don't worry about it. You're fantastic. And I love this. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you. Well, and I appreciate you giving me the opportunity. And yeah, just keep doing what you're doing, Scott. It's touching families and individuals and research companies all over the world.
Oh, you're very kind.
And beyond that.
You're really, really kind. Thank you so much. All right. Hold on 1 second for me. Okay.
Okay.
Head now to tandemdiabetes.com/juicebox and check out today's sponsor, Tandem Diabetes Care. I think you're going to find exactly what you're looking for at that link, including a way to sign up and get started with the Tandem Mobi system. Arden has been getting her diabetes supplies from US Med for 3 years. You can as well. usmed.com/juicebox or call 888-721-1514. My thanks to US Med for sponsoring this episode and for being longtime sponsors of the Juicebox Podcast. There are links in the show notes and links at juiceboxpodcast.com to US Med and all of the sponsors. Okay, well, here we are at the end of the episode. You're still with me? Thank you. I really do appreciate that. What else could you do for me? Why don't you tell a friend about the show or leave a 5-star review? Maybe you could make sure you're following or subscribed in your podcast app. Go to YouTube and follow me, or Instagram, TikTok. Oh gosh, here's one. Make sure you're following the podcast in the private Facebook group as well as the public Facebook page. You don't want to miss, please. Do you not know about the private group? You have to join the private group. As of this recording, it has 51,000 members in it. They're active, talking about diabetes. Whatever you need to know, there's a conversation happening in there right now. And I'm there all the time. Tag me. I'll say hi. My Grand Rounds series was designed by listeners to tell doctors what they need. And it also helps you to understand what to ask for. There's a mental wellness series that addresses the emotional side of diabetes and practical ways to stay balanced. And when we talk about GLP medications, well, we'll break down what they are, how they may help you, and if they fit into your diabetes management plan. What do these 3 things have in common? They're all available at juiceboxpodcast.com up in the menu. I know it can be hard to find these things in a podcast app, so we've collected them all for you at juiceboxpodcast.com. The episode you just heard was professionally edited by Wrong Way Recording. wrongwayrecording.com.